I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Torchlit, designed by David Spilinsky and from Allplay. Torchlit is a fascinating trick-taking / dungeon crawler. More the former than the latter. The dungeon crawler is more in the theme, but it does manage to carry out that theme as you play through the game. Before I dive into this, I should note this channel is sponsored by Allplay, more with them at the end of the video, and in case you caught that, yes, this is from Allplay, which means bias definitely exists. I will do my best to give you my thoughts, my pros, my cons, and to be fair to how I feel about the game, but obviously if you don't feel this could be as useful to you, check out any other content creators who have done content on this. There are a bunch out there. With that said, the general idea of Torchlit is it's going to be a trick-taking game with predictive bidding, meaning you're going to try to predict how many tricks you think you're going to win, play through the round, and then score it out and see who actually won the game, doing this across 3 rounds in total. The hook of the game is the fact that you are kind of moving through the dungeon over here, and the way that plays out, it's a little hard to explain. You move through the dungeon by winning tricks, that's one way. There are other ways to move through the dungeon, and you're trying to both get the points for matching your bid, while also trying to figure out where the most loot will be in order to get the loot. It's a little tricky to explain. Let's go ahead and take a look at my hand and start the game off. I have 2 trump suits over here, 2 trumps, which is going to be helpful to an extent, but right now, based on, I don't really have any middle cards. I don't have any 3s or 4s, so I do have some high cards, enough that I might be able to push this, so you know what, I am going to take my 5, and I'm going to guess. I'm going to put this face down as my torch card, and I'm guessing that I'm going to win 5 tricks across the course of this round. I'm playing through 11 cards per player as a 5-round game. 5 seems ambitious, but the other option was going lower, and I didn't feel confident about that, but there are ways to account and adapt for what happens. From there, let's pretend I have the starting torch over here. I'm going to play through a single round of this game in order to show you how it all kind of comes together, because I find that, at least from my first experiences playing this, I find that playing it, or at least seeing how it's played, really teaches you what's going on. Here are the player cards, by the way. I just have them laid out, but any individual player would have a single player card. I'll take the rogue, because the rogue is cool. There are no player abilities. I wish there were player abilities. I wish there were player abilities and you could choose whether to use them, and the game said, please don't use them until your 3rd game, or something like that. Anyways, I have my rogue over here, and now we're going to take a look and see what we can do. Let's go ahead and start off strong with a 7. I'm trying to win 5 tricks. Let's start off strong with a 7. And now I'm just going to go through players' hands and show you how it's going to play out. Players must follow if they can, which means right now this player is going to go ahead and play I guess let's play our lower card, although 5 versus 4 is not going to make a strong difference, although I have a bunch of 5s in my hand, and I actually have a bunch of 4s in my hand, so I think I'm actually going to get rid of the 5, and you'll see why that happens soon. So they play that card over here. This player has a 3, so I guess they're going to be following suit as well. They'll play a 3. The next player has, what do they have over here? They have a 2, so they're going to be following suit. And the last player, do they also have a green? Because if they do, well, they do have a green. They're going to be playing a 1. So we're going to play through a few tricks so you can see how this plays out. But right now, that's going to be a standard run over here. And right now, the first person who won is the person who has the highest number, which means that's me, the rogue. I'm going to advance through the dungeon. There we go. I'm the winner of the trick. I advanced through the dungeon. The other way you can advance through the dungeon is if you had the same number as the person who won. So if somebody wins with a 7 and you also played a 7, even if it's off suit, you would advance through the dungeon as well. From there, the player who had the lowest suit in the round, which is going to be this player, they become the new torchbearer. They're going to lead the next suit, and additionally, they choose any one suit from these to put down into the dungeon on its spot. So right now, depending, and this is where I didn't play for all the players, so I don't actually know what they want, let's pretend that they played low, so they're going to take this 3 and they're going to put it down over here as loot, effectively, that they're going to attempt to be gathered when the game is over at the end of the full round. The rest of the cards are going to go away. We took 1 card, and strictly speaking, you take 1 card of each suit. In this case, there was only 1 suit. Then it goes to them. Let's pretend that they're trying to win 3 tricks. In fact, let's pretend that they bid 3, because that's why they wanted to put this over here. They want to ideally end up here. So they want to populate that with as much loot as possible, although again, there's ifs and buts and reasons why you might do things. So this player, they're not necessarily trying to win. They have enough control to hold things out, so they'll start off, they want to maintain control for the next round. So they're going to play a 0 over here, hoping they can maintain control and determine what else goes. So we're going to go around and around. We're going to have the other players bid over here. This player, again, you have to bid in the suit. This player has a 2 or a 3. That seems like it's not likely to win, so let's place a 2 over here. They're probably winning right now, but they're not likely to be winning by the time it gets to the end over here. This player player, they have a 6, but there's probably a 7 out there, so it's not necessarily the best time to play your 6. They're relying on the fact that somebody else is probably going higher. They'll play a 4 over here. This player over here, they have the 7, but they actually don't care about winning this right now. For whatever reason, we're going to pretend they don't care, so they're just going to go ahead and place, well, actually, they have to place this. I'm trying to teach the game, and I'm focusing on the fact that they have to play that because they have the suit. And then back to this player, they actually don't have any in that suit, but right now, do they have a 7? They don't. So again, we're going to be seeing things slightly different. Let's go ahead and get rid of our middle but lower cards. We're going to get rid of this one, and you know they're out. So again, this player is now the person who played the lowest suit. They're going to maintain the Torchbearer. At this point, there are no 3s that got played, which is interesting. They are going to have to place this out because you place 1 card of each suit. And then from the others, they can choose one of these 7, 4, 2, or 0. They'll take the 4 because, I mean, you know, let's take the 2 because, no, the 2 is already populated. 2 should be over here. I'm sorry. Let's place the 4. That's why we're kind of distributing the loot. We'll see how things go. The rest go out. Let's go ahead and play one last round because I'm really trying to show you how that matching element works. So again, oh, and the winner was, who was it? It was this player over here. We're going to pretend there's that color because I don't actually know. Once again, we're going to have them go ahead and pick that same suit. Not necessarily because it's strategically sound, but because I want you to see how this actually plays out when you can't follow the lead suit. So over here, this player, they can follow. They're going to place a 3. The next player over here, can they follow? They can. They'll follow with a 6 over here. It's the next highest one they have. The 7 hasn't come out. The other player didn't play it last time, so who knows? The other player did play it last time, so he knows the highest one. This player can break suit, and this is where they'll go ahead and play a 6, which is off suit, and this player will also play a 6, which is also off suit, and here's what happens now. Because of this, the highest color in this suit is a 6 of this suit, which means this player is going to advance. So let's pretend this player is purple, for example. The next player also is going to advance because they match suit, which is going to be the red again. And then myself again, I'm going to move again because I, again, match the highest one played. So in general, if you win the trick, or if you have a number that is matching the highest number that won the trick, then you advance in the dungeon. Then from there, these are guaranteed to go to the 6 pile because they are the only ones in their suit. And from here, the player gets to choose. They'll once again go with the 3 because they're trying to set that one up. That's basically the way a trick plays out. You follow if you can. There's also rules around trump, but outside of that, you're basically going to be winning if you're going to be advancing if you win or if you matched. And the whole point of this is at the end of them, when you get to the final round, you have an interesting twist on the final round. Remember those cards you played face down? The final trick of the game, you either play your last card, whatever it is, or if you think it's better for you, you can swap your last card with your card on the table. This becomes your new torch, and you play the card that was set aside at the beginning as your torch, which means when you're setting your cards from the beginning, you can kind of know that you have this kind of get out of jail free card when you get to the final trick, where you can swap it with a card in your hand. So you can either go with the plan as it worked out, or pivot if the plan didn't. And you can also go in different spectrums. You could have a 3 as your torch, and then swap with a 4 if that was the last card, or you could possibly have a 3 all the way to a 6, depending on how far, and you can constantly adapt to watch how things go. Now the reason you're doing all this is ultimately you care where you end up in this dungeon. Because wherever you end up, players, let's go ahead and pretend that right now this is the situation. Right now, players would be splitting the loot. The way that works is in each zone, you're going to get 1 point for every standard monster, but you split them with people who are there. So for example, in this case, let's pretend this is over here, this player would get 1 point, these players would each get 1, and this player would get, what's no one here right now, this player would get 2 points because you split the loot based off of however many adventurers are in that spot. But you also get 2 points for every trump card that made its way there. So this, for example, over here is going to be 4 points. They each get 2. And additionally, your final card, if you manage to end up where your final card was, remember that player was trying to potentially get to the 3 over here? If he did reveal the 3, he would get 3 points because he managed to predict where he was going to end up at the end of it. And again, ending up is not just winning, it's also playing the matching cards. Alternatively, if you reveal, let's say, a 4, and the 4 was not where you ended up in the 3, then that card instead becomes a face-down card, and like the trump suit, are worth 2 points as well. So if you make your bid, then you get 3 points. If you don't make your bid, you're giving 2 points to the dungeon for the other players to split. That's basically the way you play through the game. You are playing a must-follow, trick-taking game in which you are ultimately trying to figure out not just how to match your bid, which is one part of it, but also paying attention to where the loot in the dungeon is ending up and pivoting your plans as needed to ensure that you end up where the most loot is and that others do not. It's one of those games where you are trying to ensure that other players, oh, you look at that giant pile of loot by number 4, I'm going to help you win so you get bumped from 4 to 5, and things will play out in a chaotic manner, but with enough control to feel like you have agency over your actions. that is basically how you play through a game of Torchlit, which means it's time for my review of what I like, don't like, conceal others not liking, all of that. First of all, the production. And production to me is basically a bunch of cards and a few little meeples over here, but the foiling on the cards is beautiful, the art is beautiful. I believe this is the same artist as Veil's Fate and all that from Ivy Studios, but the art, the production, the foil, the tiles, the meeples are just chunky enough, all of that's great for a small box game. Outside of that, it really gives that sense of dungeon crawling as much as a trick-taking game can, which means you're not actually like rolling dice and fighting baddies and all that, but you do have the loot piling up in the dungeon, and you are trying to figure out where to go. Like, you have this advancement aspect. Like, there's an interesting push as you go through it, where it's not just about the initial trick that you place down, the initial card you place down. You have the ability to pivot, which I really like, because first of all, it gives you a get out of jail free card as things aren't working towards you, but also the very nature of the game is that you kind of need that in here. Otherwise, it's just not fair. If you bid 6 and I bid 3 and happens to be all the treasures ending up there, it's a little harder there. But the fact that you could adapt to what's happening means when you place your initial torch down, you are thinking through, this is where I think I'm going to be based on the cards I have and how I'm going to try to control the engine, but also I can pivot and adapt if the treasure starts ending up in other areas of the board, and you also have agency over that. So I like that in general. I like the matching mechanic, the fact that you don't just move up when you win a trick, which would be limiting, you move up when you match, which means you can have a lot of people moving up even when they don't win. So there's a lot more advancement, a lot more progress than you would typically see. Normally if you play through like 11 card hand, 1 card is down, 10 cards, 5 players, that's 2 tricks average per person. But because of the matching, you can have a lot more of this. There's a lot more progress than you might otherwise think for this kind of game. And the lowest card player having agency as well means you really have multiple things you're trying to do. You're either trying to win the trick, you're trying to match the winning bid, or you're trying to be the lowest player so you have control over where the loot gets divided, as well as starting the next trick. And that really gives you a lot of things to strive for in this game, which gives you a lot of like planning, a lot of things you can try to think through how to make this work in your favor, because multiple things are rewarding you or progressing you compared with just having a single winner per hand. So the game gives you a lot of strategy and a lot of tools and a lot of things that will play out that can make you feel rewarded as you play through it. As far as what I don't like in the game, the biggest thing, and really the only thing, is that this game, as much as it's chock full of strategy, it is chock full of chaos as well. This is the kind of thing where, yes, you can plan around where you think you're going to end up. Yes, you do have tools and agency, but so do all the other players, which means you are playing this game of, okay, great, I think I can do this based on my hand, but there's so much that happens throughout the course of the game that can adapt and pivot around that. There's cards you're forced to play. There's other small side rules we didn't get into as well, but there's cards you're forced to play. There's the fact that other players have agency over taking control of the trick and forcing you to win things when you're not. The final trick of the game as well, as much as you have tools and disposal to be able to swap things out, so can the other players, and I have found that it does very often happen in this game, that you can almost have, not necessarily king making in the traditional sense, but someone swapping their card out can completely change what goes on, because you know throughout the course of the game, you're like, well, you don't have any red left, because we've played it, I know you don't have red, but you could have red. Red's the trump. You could have red as your final card set off to the side, and that can change everything. So all the things you've spent the whole game learning can be upended when you get to that final trick. So you can have nearly a perfect round where you have felt in complete control, and then get to the end and it's like, oh, so that's the card you set aside. Now, granted, you do have to be counting towards that as you play, but I do find there's a lot of strategy and also a lot of things that will hit you with the chaos of what this game is. As far as what I can see others not liking, this is a heavier game to an extent. Even the player aids. Like, the player aids kind of give you everything you need to know, but there's still a lot of information to process, especially the first time you're going through this. This is not a easy or accessible trick-taking game. There are much more complicated ones out there, make no mistake, but this is definitely in that slightly higher tier as far as understanding what it is you're trying to do as you play through it. It is, I do find your first game, this is one of those games where I say your first game is a write-off game. Your first game is a learning experience, or at least your first round. Honestly, play a first round and then reset now that everyone understands and play through a full game after that, because it very much is, it's thinky, and again, I talked about this already in the things I don't like. You will get caught unawares by a lot of things that make an otherwise perfectly planned engine just not work out. So if you're looking for something more accessible, there are other more accessible trick takers out there. This is a deeper one that is rewarding with chaos. Which brings me to final thoughts. Overall in this game, it is a very thinky and rewarding trick-taking game with chaos. That's my biggest issue with the game, is that as much as I enjoy the process I'm going through, the strategy is as present as again, I don't know if you want to call it chaos, tools, whatever you want to call it, even just luck as you go through it. You know, you can be planning your way towards a perfect game and it just doesn't necessarily happen. So I enjoy this overall, but I do walk into every game thinking I will do my best, and either it works out or it doesn't, and that's every game. Every game I play either works out or it doesn't. But I think sometimes you feel like you had more of a sense of how much it could work out or not. You had more agency over that, and this is one where I will do my best to win, and sometimes I won't, and I write it off as, okay, it's that kind of game. Overall, though, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I've really been enjoying this dungeon crawl of a trick-taking game, both because it manages to feel different in a crowded space, and also because it's good while being different. As far as other game recommendations, if you are looking for something that's a drop more accessible, but also very much on the thinky and creative side, check out Cat in the Box, Cat in the Box from AEG, no, that's not true, from Bezier Games, Cat in the Box from Bezier Games, one of my favorite trick-taking games. And if you're looking for another trick-taking game that manages to give you a unique theme, similar to the way this one does, check out Origin Story from Stonemaier, giving you a very different trick-taking game as you build up your powers as you go through the experience. And then I mentioned that Allplay is a channel sponsor. If you go to allplay.com, you can find games both from Allplay themselves, as well as a variety of partner publishers, all with $4 flat rate shipping in the US for any number of things you want to get. And check out Runes. Runes is more of a hand-shedding game as opposed to a trick-taking game, but I did find it very much hit a similar notes for me, in the sense that I felt a lot of strategy and control over what I was doing, and also the chaos at the same time. It's shedding as opposed to trick-taking, but both of these games have kind of got very similar vibes, enjoying what the game lets me do, and relinquishing my ability to win to whatever the card gods decide. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.